The grand hall of the Galactic Dominion glowed with silver and gold light. Thousands of nobles, warriors, and scholars stood around the shining platform at the center. The roof stretched so high that the stars were visible through a transparent dome. Every sound echoed softly across the marble floor. The air smelled of metal and power, filled with the hum of old machines. At the center of it all stood the ancient scanner of unity, a tall pillar of light that had decided rulers for more than 5,000 years. It was the day the galaxy had been waiting for. The time had come to choose the next ruler of the Dominion, the one who would hold the crown of unity and lead the hundreds of worlds under one voice. The scanner, built by the ancient makers, could read the energy of life inside a being. It did not care about name or title. It cared only about what lived in the heart and mind of the chosen one. Around the hall stood nobles from every known species. The blue-skinned Varn, the tall Rinner, the golden-eyed Turith, and even the winged Solari. Each species had sent its best candidate. They were trained, strong, and full of pride. Each one believed that today would be their victory. Near the far wall, away from the glowing floor, stood Mira, a young human woman from the border colony of Ardenfor. She wore a plain gray uniform, simple and clean, unlike the shining robes of the nobles. She was not here to compete. She was here to work as a translator, hired by the council to manage communication between different species. To her, this event was something far above her life. She did not belong among the royal bloodlines. She was an observer, a worker from a small human colony, a species most in the Dominion barely respected, as the ceremony began. The hall filled with the deep voice of High Chancellor Rovan, an old Rinner with silver skin and glowing eyes. His voice rolled across the chamber like thunder. Today the crown of unity shall choose its next bearer. The scanner will judge not by wealth, not by power, but by truth of being. Let the candidates step forward. The first candidate, Prince Callan of Turith, stepped into the light. His armor shone like the surface of a star. The scanner hummed as its blue beam moved across his body. Everyone held their breath. After a few seconds, the light dimmed, and the screen above it showed one word: rejected. A wave of whispers spread across the hall. The next candidate walked forward, a tall Solari named Vetra, her wings folded neatly. The scanner glowed again, scanning her essence, her thoughts, and her past. The same word appeared. Rejected. One after another, the candidates came. Each stood tall, proud, and sure of victory. Each failed. The scanner moved on without emotion. Rejected. Rejected. The nobles began to shift uncomfortably. Murmurs turned to confusion. The High Chancellor frowned and looked toward the machine's control panel. Has the device lost calibration? He asked one of the engineers. The old engineer, a short green-skinned Turith, shook his head quickly. No, Chancellor. The scanner functions perfectly. It has never failed in 10,000 trials. Then why was every noble being rejected? It made no sense. The council grew nervous. Every royal line in the Dominion was represented here. If none were worthy, what did that mean for the future? Mira continued her work quietly, noting down translations on her device. She tried not to stare, but she felt a strange curiosity. The scanner seemed alive, more like a watcher than a tool. Its light moved with rhythm, as if listening to something unseen. She wondered if it could sense her thoughts as well. After the last candidate failed, silence filled the hall. The Chancellor turned to the crowd. Is there any other who wishes to be scanned? Any who hold the courage to face the judgment of the crown? No one stepped forward. The air grew heavy. The nobles looked at one another, their pride wounded. Then one of the alien guards, a rough-looking Varn soldier, laughed and pointed at Mira. Let the human girl try. Perhaps the machine wishes for humor. A few nobles chuckled at the remark. Others sneered. Mira froze, unsure if it was a joke or an order. But the Chancellor turned his cold eyes toward her. Human, step forward. Mira's heart jumped. Me. I am not a candidate, she said softly. You stand within this hall, the Chancellor replied. All present may face the scanner. Step forward. The guard pushed her gently toward the glowing platform. Mira hesitated, then walked slowly into the light. Her boots echoed across the floor. Every eye in the room watched her. She could feel the weight of their gaze like a storm pressing on her back. Her hands trembled slightly. She looked up at the great scanner, a tower of shining energy that hummed with power older than her species. She took a deep breath and stood still. The scanner came alive with a deep sound. The light turned from blue to white, brighter than before. It moved across her, reading her essence, her memories, her truth. The hall was silent. Even the smallest sound disappeared. The scanner's hum changed pitch, rising higher and higher until it suddenly stopped. The light froze. The screen above it flashed with strange golden symbols. The translator drone struggled for a second, then displayed the result. Crownless king, species, human. The hall erupted in noise. Some shouted in disbelief, others in anger. A few laughed nervously, thinking it must be an error. Mira stood frozen under the scanner's glow. She did not understand what was happening. The words on the screen glowed brighter, and below them appeared another line. Line of lost kings verified. Gasps filled the chamber. The nobles began to argue loudly. The chancellor shouted for order, but no one listened. Impossible, cried a Solari noble. Humans are a forgotten race, not rulers. Another shouted, the scanner has malfunctioned. It cannot be true. But the machine did not stop. Its light pulsed again and projected images into the air. The crowd watched as ancient scenes played above them. Humans walking among stars, leading fleets, uniting worlds. The vision showed old banners, soldiers, and cities of light. It showed Earth, green and blue, surrounded by rings of fire and defense. It showed kings and queens of humanity standing before alien councils. Then it showed war, destruction, and silence. The vision ended with one phrase written in golden light: the spirit endures. The crowd fell silent. Mira stood trembling. Her voice was small when she spoke. I do not understand. I am only a worker from Ardenfor. The chancellor stared at her, his face unreadable. It seems the scanner understands more than we do. The guards surrounded Mira, but did not harm her. They guided her down from the platform while the nobles shouted their protests. The chancellor ordered the council to meet in private. The hall emptied slowly, full of angry whispers. Some nobles glared at Mira with hate, others with fear. A few looked thoughtful, as if seeing something new for the first time. When the hall was empty, the scanner still shone softly. Its light followed Mira as she left the chamber, like an eye that had finally found what it was looking for. The ancient machine, silent for ages, had made its choice. In the quiet of the council room, the leaders of the Dominion argued for hours. Some demanded the human be removed. Others said the rules of the scanner were clear and eternal. No one could override it. The machine's word was law. The chancellor listened to every voice, then raised his hand. The scanner chose. Whether we like it or not, we must understand why. We will not act in haste. Bring the human to the citadel of verification. She will be tested, and we will see if the machine speaks truth. When Mira heard of this, fear filled her chest. She wanted to go home, to return to her small colony, her simple work. But deep inside her heart, she felt something strange. It was not pride or excitement. It was a sense of calling, as if her ancestors whispered from the stars. That night, she stood on the balcony of the guest quarters and looked at the sky. The stars above seemed brighter than ever. Somewhere in that endless sea, old Earth still existed, a memory lost in time. Mira wondered if the scanner had seen that memory in her. If it had seen something she could not yet understand. Far below the hall of the scanner was empty. The machine stood quiet, its surface now glowing with faint golden lines that looked almost like veins. In the silence, it whispered a soft sound that only the walls could hear, a hum that spoke of awakening, destiny, and of a forgotten empire that was about to rise again. The hallways of the citadel of verification were silent, except for the soft echo of Mira's boots on the marble floor. She had been escorted here by 2 tall Varn guards who did not speak except to give directions. The citadel itself was a massive structure of silver walls and bright lights, older than most civilizations in the Dominion. Its towers reached into the clouds of nearby planets, and its corridors twisted in ways that made many visitors dizzy. Myra felt small as she walked, her human frame dwarfed by the architecture and the aliens around her. Her mind was racing. Why had the scanner chosen her? Humans were long thought to be weak, simple, and insignificant. Her species had no noble houses, no great fleets, no ancient alliances. Mira had always known humans as workers, explorers, and survivors, not rulers. The words the scanner had shown in the hall, the crownless king and line of lost kings, replayed in her mind. She did not understand them, but she could feel their weight. Something in her was stirring, something she had never felt before. The guards led her into a waiting room where the council of the citadel would meet her. She looked around. The room was oval and lined with holographic displays showing distant worlds, fleets, and records of past rulers. At the center sat the council high-ranking officials from different species, each wearing elaborate robes. Their eyes followed Mira as she entered, some with suspicion, others with curiosity. The High Chancellor spoke first. "Human, you have been identified by the scanner. You are to undergo the trial of worth. You will face 3 tests designed to measure strength, wisdom, and compassion. Only if you pass will the title of the Crownless King be confirmed." Mira's voice trembled. "I do not seek power. I am not a ruler. I am only a translator from Ardenfor." One of the counselors, a golden-eyed Turith, leaned forward. "Whether you seek it or not is irrelevant. The scanner has chosen. Its judgment is absolute. Your species has been forgotten, but the machine does not forget. You will undergo the trial as all others have." Mira swallowed hard. She had no choice. The chamber doors opened, revealing the first test. It was a vast arena filled with shifting terrain, gravity fields, and simulated hazards. A group of aliens, much stronger and faster than she could ever be, awaited her on the other side. The trial was designed to measure strength, endurance, and courage. The first challenge was to cross the arena without falling into the traps or being defeated by opponents. Mira's heart pounded. Her muscles ached before the test even began, but she forced herself to focus. She could not win through sheer power. She would have to rely on her speed, her instincts, and her careful observation of the environment. The horn sounded, and the trial began. Rocks and energy barriers shifted, forcing Mira to move quickly. A Varn soldier charged at her with a glowing staff. She dodged, rolled, and pushed off a wall to launch herself past him. Another opponent tried to block her path, but she used his momentum to redirect him toward a trap. Each move required concentration, courage, and agility. Hours passed in the simulation, though it felt like minutes. Mira did not rest. She felt the strain in her arms, legs, and lungs, but she refused to give up. Her body was human, fragile compared to the alien candidates, but her determination was unmatched. The arena recorded every move, analyzing her decisions, speed, and control. Finally, the horn sounded again. The trial ended. Myra was exhausted, covered in sweat and trembling, but she had crossed the arena without harm. The judges whispered among themselves. The scanner pulsed softly, acknowledging her performance. The human had passed the first test, not by strength alone, but by endurance, intelligence, and willpower. The second test measured wisdom. Myra entered a chamber filled with glowing symbols, puzzles, and holographic projections. Each puzzle represented complex problems of governance, trade, diplomacy, and ethics. The aliens around her solved some with ease, relying on their instinctive knowledge of logic. Myra had no such advantage. She had lived on Ardenfor, a colony struggling for survival. She had learned to make decisions quickly with limited information. The first puzzle was a crisis in a planetary system. A disease was spreading among several species. Mira quickly analyzed the data, considering resources, travel times, and medical knowledge. She suggested solutions that minimized harm. prioritized aid to those in greatest need, and involved cooperation across species. The holographic simulation responded, adjusting outcomes based on her choices. Other candidates relied on brute force solutions, sending armies or dominating one species to enforce control. Myra's approach was subtle, thoughtful, and precise. The scanner recorded every decision, measuring foresight and judgment. By the end of the trial, her solutions proved more effective than most of the alien candidates. The chamber lights dimmed, signaling her success. The final trial measured compassion. Mira had expected this to be easier, but it was the hardest. A simulated disaster erupted in the chamber. Holographic citizens screamed for help. One of the virtual characters was a young alien prince who had mocked her since her arrival. Many of the nobles assumed she would ignore him as he had been cruel to her. Without thinking, Mira ran to save him. She pushed him out of the path of falling debris, shielding him with her body. The simulation recorded the act, analyzing her empathy, selflessness, and courage. She could feel the strain in her body, but she did not stop. Other candidates took safer paths or ignored those in danger. Mira's actions proved her heart, her humanity, and her understanding of leadership. The chamber went silent. A beam of golden light filled the room surrounding Myra. The scanner's voice, deep and resonant, echoed through the halls of the Citadel. The human displays endurance, wisdom, and compassion. The line of lost kings awakens. Mira collapsed to her knees, exhausted. She had never imagined such power, such responsibility, or such recognition. Her mind raced with questions. Why her? Why now? The words of the scanner burned in her memory. Line of lost kings. Could it be true that humans had once ruled the galaxy? Could her ancestors have left a legacy hidden among the stars? As she rested, the council met in urgent discussion. Some called for her removal, claiming the trial had been manipulated. Others insisted the scanner could not be wrong. The debate was fierce, but no one dared to override the machine. Its judgment was absolute. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, messages began to spread. News of a human chosen by the scanner reached colonies, fleets, and ancient records. Some dismissed it as myth. Others remembered old stories of humanity's lost empire. Whispers of the Crownless king stirred hope, fear, and curiosity in equal measure. Mira spent the night in a quiet room, staring at the stars. She thought of her home, of Ardenfor, and of the humans she had left behind. She wondered if they knew of the potential within her, the part of their heritage that had been forgotten. She did not yet feel like a ruler, but a strange sense of purpose filled her. Something ancient and powerful was calling her, and she could not ignore it. In the Citadel, the scanner remained active. Its golden light pulsed softly, recording every heartbeat, every thought, every motion. It was a living memory, a witness to the moment when a species long thought lost was being recognized once more. The next day, the council called Mira before them again. She stood tall, trying to appear calm despite the fear in her chest. Human, the chancellor said, you have passed the trial of worth. The scanner has confirmed your essence. Yet the galaxy will not accept this easily. There will be resistance. You must prepare for challenges beyond these walls. Are you willing to face them? Mira swallowed. Her voice was quiet but firm. If it is the will of the scanner, I will face whatever comes. The council nodded, some reluctantly, others with genuine awe. The path ahead was unclear. The galaxy had never seen a human rise to such a position. Allies would be rare, enemies many. But Mira felt a spark of determination. She had passed the trials not by force, but by using her mind, her heart, and her courage. She would continue in the same way. Far above the Citadel, the stars shone like diamonds scattered across the black sky. Somewhere in that vastness, ancient human fleets and cities remained hidden. Mira wondered if they would respond to her. If the galaxy would remember the line of kings it had lost. The scanner pulsed again, as if in reply. Its hum filled the chamber, a sound of recognition and awakening. It had chosen well. Mira closed her eyes for a moment. She did not feel like a queen. She did not feel like a ruler. She felt like a human with a purpose, a link between the past and the future. The galaxy would soon see what it meant to be led not by blood, but by spirit. And so the human, who was not supposed to rule, began her journey. A journey that would challenge every belief in the Dominion, awaken forgotten legacies, and test the very meaning of leadership. Mira had passed the trials, but the true challenge had only just begun. Mira awoke to the soft hum of the citadel. Light spilled through the tall windows, touching the polished floors with silver and gold reflections. She had slept little, her mind filled with images of the trials, the ancient scanner, and visions of humans leading fleets and worlds. She had passed the trial of worth, yet she felt uneasy. Passing tests was one thing, but leading a galaxy was another. A soft chime echoed through the room. Mira rose, straightening her uniform. 2 vanguards waited outside, silent as statues. They gestured for her to follow. Today she would face the next stage, the trial of leadership. A series of challenges designed to test her ability to unite, inspire, and command. Unlike the first trials, this one was not about personal strength or clever solutions. It was about influence, judgment, and vision. The council escorted her to the Hall of Decisions, a vast chamber shaped like a star. At its center floated a holographic map of the Dominion, showing planets, fleets, and political boundaries. Each counselor sat at a glowing console, ready to monitor the trial. Mira stepped into a circle of light at the center of the map. The scanner's projection hovered above her, pulsating with golden energy. "Human," the Chancellor said, his voice carrying through the chamber. "The trial of leadership begins. You will face simulated crises across the Dominion. Your choices will determine the survival and prosperity of entire worlds. Remember, strength alone does not lead. Wisdom, compassion, and courage are your guides." Mira nodded. Her heart pounded, but she forced herself to focus. The first simulation activated immediately. A holographic system projected a planetary colony under attack by a band of marauders. Buildings burned, civilians ran in panic, and the colony's small defense fleet struggled against the attackers. Mira quickly analyzed the situation. She could call in military support, but that risked more destruction. She could evacuate the civilians, but that would abandon the planet's resources. Mira spoke calmly, issuing commands. She ordered the local fleet to create defensive barriers, used her knowledge of resource management to distribute supplies, and directed drones to guide civilians to safety. She coordinated with neighboring colonies to provide support without risking further conflict. The simulation responded immediately. Buildings were saved, lives were protected, and the marauders were forced to retreat. The council observed silently, impressed by her balance of caution and courage. Unlike the alien candidates who often relied on overwhelming force, Mira thought carefully about every decision. She did not seek victory at the cost of life. She sought solutions that preserved both people and resources. The second simulation was political. 2 neighboring worlds disputed a trade route critical to the Dominion. Both had strong arguments, and the counselors watched to see how she would resolve the conflict. Mira listened to the projections, asking questions and weighing evidence. She proposed a compromise, splitting resources fairly and ensuring mutual cooperation. She suggested shared oversight by a neutral council. The holograms responded, showing calm citizens and stabilized trade. The alien counselors muttered among themselves. Few had expected a human, a species considered weak, to think so carefully about balance and fairness. Mira realized leadership was not about being feared or admired. It was about earning trust. The final simulation was the hardest. A star system faced collapse. A dying sun threatened to engulf multiple planets. The inhabitants were panicked, and the fleet had limited options. Mira felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. She could evacuate the people, but many would die in transit. She could attempt to stabilize the star with experimental technology. But failure could destroy everything. She paused, taking a deep breath. Mira remembered stories from her home colony how humans survived harsh conditions, adapted to scarcity, and helped one another. Her instincts told her that sometimes courage meant risk. She ordered the fleet to implement a new plan, stabilizing the sun's energy using precise maneuvers and calculated risks. The simulation responded. Light spread across the holographic star system. Planets were saved. Lives were preserved. The chamber grew silent. The scanner pulsed brighter than ever, sending golden streams of light across Mira's body. The council whispered in astonishment. The human had not only solved each crisis, but had done so with a balance of strategy, empathy, and courage. The scanner's projection spoke once more. The human demonstrates leadership beyond calculation. The line of lost kings awakens. Mira felt a strange warmth fill her chest. She had done what no one expected. She had led not with power alone, but with thought, heart, and spirit. And yet, even as she received recognition, she could feel the weight of the galaxy pressing down. Leadership was not simply passing trials. It was responsibility for lives, worlds, and history she barely understood. After the simulation, the council took her aside. "You have succeeded in the trial of leadership," said the chancellor. "The scanner confirms your capability. Yet the galaxy is not ready for a human ruler. There will be resistance. Some worlds will oppose you, some will doubt. Are you prepared to face this?" Myra swallowed. Her voice was quiet but steady. "I will face what comes. If the scanner chose me, I will do my best for all." The council nodded. Some aliens looked skeptical, others thoughtful. Myra's resolve impressed even the harshest critics. She was not a queen yet. She was a human, simple in appearance, yet her decisions carried the weight of thousands of worlds. In the days that followed, the news of her success spread. Fleet commanders, planetary governors, and scholars began to speak in hushed tones about the Crownless King, while some dismissed it as myth. Others remembered old legends of human leaders from centuries past. Humanity had once been a forgotten race, but now its name stirred hope, curiosity, and fear across the Dominion. Myra trained daily. She studied histories of alien civilizations, military strategies, and diplomatic methods. She met with generals, scientists, and governors. She learned to listen, to plan, and to inspire. Though small and fragile compared to many, her mind was sharp, and her determination was unyielding. Every decision she made shaped the way others began to see humans, not weak survivors, but capable leaders. One evening, as she practiced in a quiet training hall, the scanner's light pulsed gently. Mira approached it. Its golden glow touched her hands, and a soft hum filled the room. She felt a connection, almost as if it were speaking directly to her thoughts. Memories of ancient humans, of old fleets, of empires long gone, flashed in her mind. She did not fully understand them, but she felt their presence. The next morning, delegation arrived from a distant planet called Trellis 9. Its leaders were skeptical of a human ruling the Dominion. They brought fleets, armies, and a council of advisors. Mira met them not with threats, but with calm words. She listened, asked questions, and proposed fair solutions to trade and defense. Her words were measured, her reasoning clear, her empathy genuine. By the end of the meeting, the Trellis 9 delegation left with respect. They were not fully convinced, but they began to see that the human before them was unlike any ruler they had expected. Some aliens whispered that the scanner's choice might indeed be correct. Even as Myra gained allies, opposition grew. Some noble houses refused to acknowledge her. They spread rumors, attempted to discredit her, and challenged her at every turn. Yet Mira remained patient. She knew that leadership was not earned through fear or power alone, but through persistence, integrity, and courage. One night, as she walked through the Citadel gardens, Mira thought about her ancestors. Humanity had been lost, scattered among the stars. She felt their strength, their resilience, and their wisdom in her heart. The scanner had recognized it in her. Now, it was her task to prove it to the galaxy. The next day, the council called her to a meeting with the fleet commanders. "Human," said Admiral Vorin, a tall Varn with silver armor, "we face threats beyond our borders. Pirates, raiders, and hostile fleets, Seek to challenge the Dominion. You will need to lead our forces. Are you prepared? Mira nodded. I will do everything I can to protect the people of the Dominion. I will not rely on fear, but on strategy, cooperation, and trust. The Admiral raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical. Yet as Myra outlined her plan, detailing logistics, defense measures, and coordinated strikes, the counselors began to nod. They had seen leadership not in titles or bloodlines, but in actions, thought, encouraged. By the end of the week, Myra's reputation grew. Aliens whispered among themselves, some in fear, some in admiration. Humanity was no longer considered weak. One small human from Arden 4 had passed trials, won respect.
Out.
And proved that the scanner's choice was not a mistake. Mira knew the path ahead would be difficult. War, politics, and doubt awaited her. Yet she felt the spark of something greater. The scanner had chosen her for a reason, and she would honor that choice. The galaxy would remember that a human, without crown or bloodline, had the spirit of a true leader. As the sun rose over the citadel, Mira stood on a balcony, looking at the fleets below. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in her life, she felt ready. She would not be just a human from Arden 4. She would become the Crownless King, the leader the galaxy had forgotten, and the hope for all worlds that believed in courage, wisdom, and unity. The citadel was quiet in the early hours, but Mira could not sleep. She walked through the corridors, her mind filled with thoughts of the galaxy, the trials, and the message of the scanner. The words line of Lost Kings repeated in her mind. She had passed the trials of strength, wisdom, and compassion, and she had begun to prove her leadership. Yet the true meaning of the scanner's choice remained unclear in the council chambers. The oldest scholar of the Dominion, Eldarion, called a private meeting. Eldarion had silver hair, a calm voice, and eyes that seemed to look into the past. Myra, he said quietly, there is something you must see. The scanner has awakened something long forgotten. He led her to the archives, a hidden chamber deep within the citadel. The walls were lined with holographic scrolls, ancient records, and relics from civilizations older than most stars. Myra's eyes widened. She had studied history on Arden, but this was beyond anything she had imagined. Eldarion activated a sealed hologram. Images of old Earth appeared, green and blue, glowing with life. Humans in shining fleets stood before councils of alien species, uniting worlds with words, courage, and diplomacy. Cities floated among the stars, and armies moved not to conquer, but to protect. Myra recognized the shapes of humans from stories her ancestors had told. Though these images were far grander than any tale she had heard, these records, Eldarion said, tell of the First Empire, a human-led alliance that united hundreds of species. It existed long before the Dominion, and humans were the rulers. But then a great catastrophe struck. The Empire fell, and humanity vanished from the eyes of the galaxy. The scanner was built to preserve their legacy, to find a leader when the galaxy was ready once more. Mira's heart raced. Humans had not only survived on Arden 4, but had once held a position of great power. The title Crownless King was not an error. It was a recognition of something far older than the current Dominion, Eldarion continued. The scanner does not judge by bloodline alone. It reads the essence, the spirit, and the capacity for leadership. It has chosen you because your mind, courage, and compassion reflect the values of the First Empire. Myra shook her head. But I am just one human. How can I lead all these worlds? I do not have armies, fleets, or allies. I am nothing compared to the nobles and rulers of the Dominion. Eldarion smiled softly. Leadership is not about power alone. It is about vision, choices, and the ability to inspire others. The First Empire fell not because of weakness, but because it lost its purpose. You have the chance to restore what was lost if you are willing. Mira spent hours in the archives, learning about her ancestors. She saw the cities humans had built, the alliances they had forged, and the technology they had created. She read about great councils, fleets that moved as one, and humans who were remembered not as conquerors, but as unifiers. She began to understand why the scanner had chosen her. It saw not only her trials, but the potential within her to awaken the legacy of her species as she emerged from the archives. The Citadel was alive with news. Reports had spread across the Dominion about a human chosen by the scanner. Some worlds prepared to welcome her. Others mobilized armies, fearing what it meant. Mira realized that her journey would be filled with both allies and enemies. The path of leadership was not easy, but she felt a growing determination. The council convened a strategy meeting. Mira listened as generals, diplomats, and advisors spoke of potential threats. Pirates, raiders, and rogue fleets had already begun to move, sensing opportunity in the unrest. Mira's mind worked quickly. She suggested alliances with neutral planets, coordinated patrols, and systems of communication that allowed faster response to crises. Her plans were clear, practical, and inspiring. The council observed in silence. Mira's ideas were not flashy or domineering. They were based on cooperation, strategy, and empathy. She did not seek to rule through fear, but through unity. Slowly, skepticism began to shift toward respect. Some council members whispered that the scanner's choice might indeed be wise. Meanwhile, Mira began visiting distant colonies to build support. She traveled aboard a sleek human shuttle, accompanied by a small team of council-approved escorts. Each planet was different. Some were thriving, with advanced technology and skilled citizens. Others were struggling, barely surviving in harsh environments. Mira listened to their leaders, learned their problems, and offered solutions. Her presence inspired hope. Even those who doubted humans began to see their potential. On Calith 7, a mining colony struggling under raider attacks, Mira organized defenses using local resources. She trained miners and citizens to protect their homes, coordinated patrols with nearby colonies, and shared strategies that minimized risk and casualties. The people of Calith 7 called her a leader not because of title, but because she had acted when others could not. On Cernia Prime, a planet rich in trade and technology, she mediated disputes between corporations and planetary authorities. She balanced resources fairly, ensured cooperation, and established systems of oversight that prevented corruption. By the time she left, the leaders of Cernia Prime pledged loyalty to her guidance, recognizing her wisdom and fairness. Even as Mira gained allies, resistance grew. Some noble houses refused to acknowledge her. They spread rumors, claiming that humans were deceitful, unworthy, or manipulative. They questioned the validity of the scanner, accusing it of malfunction. Mira faced these challenges with patience and calm. She knew that fear and opposition would fade only through action and example, not argument. One day, a group of alien nobles demanded an audience in the Citadel. They arrived with armed guards ready to challenge her. Mira met them in the council chamber. They demanded proof of her capability and authority. Mira listened carefully, then presented evidence of her successful missions. Her solutions to crises, and the support she had gained from planets and colonies, the nobles were stunned. They had expected arrogance, excuses, or weakness. Instead, they found a human who spoke with confidence, clarity, and fairness. Slowly, some of them began to nod in acknowledgement. Others left still skeptical, but they could not deny the results. Leadership, it seemed, was being measured not by heritage, but by action. As the days passed, Mira's reputation grew. Messages arrived from across the galaxy. Colonies that had never interacted with humans before sent greetings, support, and even supplies. The story of the human chosen by the scanner spread like fire through the Dominion. Hope stirred in worlds that had long felt abandoned, and doubt crept into those who relied solely on tradition. Mira spent long nights studying the archives, learning about military strategy, diplomacy, and governance. She trained in the use of technology, communication networks, and coordination of fleets. Though she had no grand army yet, she began building a network of support, uniting small groups and teaching them to work together. She was not ruling through fear or force. She was building trust, vision, and purpose. One evening, Mira returned to the archives. The golden light of the scanner pulsed softly in the chamber. She placed her hand on the glowing surface and felt a warmth that spread through her body. Memories of ancient humans, their courage, wisdom, and unity filled her mind. She understood now that she was not alone. The spirit of humanity, long lost, had awakened within her. "Prepare, Mira," Eldarion said from the doorway. "The galaxy will test you. Allies will rise, enemies will act, but the scanner has chosen correctly. You carry the legacy of your species. You are the Crownless King." Amira nodded. She did not feel fear. She felt responsibility, determination, and hope. She had passed the trials, gained allies, and begun to unite worlds. Yet the true challenges were only beginning. The galaxy would resist change. Old powers would fight. But Mira knew that leadership was not about avoiding conflict. It was about guiding, inspiring, and protecting. The next day, a fleet of ships arrived at the Citadel. Some were ambassadors, others observers, and a few were old human explorers who had secretly survived on distant worlds. Mira met them quietly. They spoke of humanity's hidden achievements, fleets that had wandered beyond Dominion space, and technologies that had been preserved for centuries. Mira realized that her journey was part of a much larger story. Humanity had once led the galaxy. She now had the chance to restore its place. The scanner's golden light pulsed continuously, a reminder that it was watching, guiding, and recording. Mira understood that her success depended not on fear, not on power, but on vision, empathy, and courage. The galaxy would judge her, test her, and challenge her. But she was ready. As the sun rose over the Citadel towers, Mira stood on the balcony. She looked at the fleets below, the planets that had pledged support, and the stars beyond. Humanity had been forgotten, scattered among the stars. Now it had a voice once more, and that voice would be hers. She whispered quietly, almost to herself, "I will not fail. The line of lost kings has returned. I will lead, not with crown or blood, but with courage, wisdom, and hope." The galaxy was waiting. Allies and enemies alike watched from afar. The Crownless King had begun her journey. The legacy of humanity was awakening, and nothing would stop the rise of a human who carried the spirit of an entire species within her heart. Myra stood on the balcony of the Citadel, looking out at the vast fleets gathered below. The planets of the Dominion had begun to take notice of her, sending ships, ambassadors, and messages of support. Yet even as allies emerged, so did opposition. Noble houses that had ruled for centuries were wary of a human, someone they considered weak and inexperienced. They had never faced leadership from a species without bloodlines, without history in the eyes of the galaxy. The Citadel buzzed with activity. Ships prepared for patrol, training simulations ran across the chambers, and counselors debated strategies. Mira moved among them calmly, listening, learning, and guiding. She had passed the trials, uncovered the history of humanity, begun to unite the scattered support of planets and colonies. Still, the true test of leadership was yet to come. Earning the trust of a galaxy that had forgotten her species, High Chancellor Rovan called a council meeting. The chamber was filled with leaders, generals, and advisors. Mira entered, her uniform simple, yet her presence commanding attention. The scanner's light pulsed softly above her, its golden glow reflecting off the walls. "Human," the Chancellor said, "the galaxy is restless. Some support you, others resist. You will need to act decisively to prove the scanner's choice. Will you take command?" Mira's voice was steady. "I do not seek command for myself. I seek unity for the Dominion. I will act to protect, to guide, and to inspire." "That is all any leader should do," the council murmured. Some were skeptical, others hopeful. Mira began her first official campaign to establish peace and cooperation. The first challenge came from the outer colonies. Raiders had begun attacking trade routes, threatening food, resources, and safety. Mira organized fleets, combining the limited forces of smaller colonies with those of planets willing to ally with her. She did not rely on brute force alone. She created strategies to protect civilians, prevent unnecessary loss, and outmaneuver the raiders with speed and precision. The operation was a success. Trade routes were secured, lives were saved, and the colonies saw the effectiveness of her leadership. Word spread quickly. Humans, once thought insignificant, were capable of protecting the galaxy with strategy, courage, and foresight. Next, Mira turned her attention to diplomacy. Several planets were on the brink of war over border disputes. She visited them personally, meeting with leaders, listening to grievances, and mediating solutions. Her calm presence and fairness impressed even the most stubborn leaders. She did not threaten, bribe, or demand obedience. She offered reason, compromise, and understanding. Slowly, agreements were reached and tensions eased. In the Citadel, the scanner pulsed brightly as it recorded her actions. Eldarian, the ancient scholar, watched quietly. "The machine does not judge lightly," he said to a counselor. "It has never chosen a leader so small in appearance, yet so great in spirit." Mira embodies the essence of humanity's legacy. Despite these successes, opposition persisted. Some noble houses refused to acknowledge her, claiming the scanner had erred or been influenced. They gathered fleets to challenge her influence. Rumors spread, suggesting that humans were deceitful or manipulative. Mira faced these challenges with patience. She knew that leadership was earned through action and consistency, not argument or intimidation. When a fleet loyal to a rival noble approached the Citadel, Mira acted swiftly. She organized defensive formations, sent emissaries to negotiate, and demonstrated the effectiveness of her coordinated forces. The rival fleet, seeing the strength of her strategy and the loyalty of her allies, withdrew peacefully. Mira had prevented conflict not by fear, but by competence, planning, and clarity of purpose. During this time, Mira uncovered another part of her heritage. Hidden archives revealed that ancient human technology still existed, scattered across distant worlds. Fleets, communication systems, and starships had survived the centuries, waiting for someone to lead them. Mira coordinated with the explorers who had preserved this knowledge. She activated dormant ships, trained crews, and re-established networks that had been silent for centuries. With each success, her reputation grew. Planets that had doubted humans now sent ambassadors, supplies, and offers of alliance. The story of the human chosen by the scanner reached distant worlds, sparking hope among those who had felt abandoned and caution, among those who had relied solely on tradition. Mira knew that leadership was more than victories in battle or agreements in diplomacy. She spent time with the people, learning their needs, their hopes, and their fears. She visited schools, marketplaces, and hospitals. She listened to the youngest citizens, the workers, and the farmers. She realized that leadership was about inspiring confidence, nurturing growth, and uniting differences under a common purpose. As her influence spread, the scanner pulsed with increasing intensity. Its golden light projected images of humans from centuries past, standing among fleets and councils, leading with wisdom and courage. Mira felt the weight of her ancestors' legacy, and with it, the responsibility to honor their memory. The final challenge approached when several noble houses conspired to create a rebellion. They gathered fleets and prepared to challenge her authority. Mira did not panic. She called a council meeting, gathering allies and advisors. Together, they created a plan to prevent bloodshed while asserting her authority. The fleets met in space. Mira coordinated movements with precision, using strategy rather than force. She communicated with the rival nobles, appealing to reason and unity. The confrontation ended without war. The rebels saw the wisdom and fairness of her leadership and chose to submit rather than fight. The scanner's light filled the Citadel. A message appeared above Mira. The Crownless King has united the Dominion. Humanity's legacy is restored. Yes. The council and the citizens present gasped. Mira looked around. She had not taken a crown, nor demanded loyalty. She had led through action, compassion, and wisdom. The galaxy recognized her not because of title, bloodline, or power, but because of her spirit. Mira's final act as the trial concluded was symbolic. She approached the scanner and placed her hand on it. Its golden light enveloped her, projecting her image across the galaxy. Her voice echoed through every communication channel. I do not seek to rule with fear or wealth. I do not demand obedience. I am human, and I have been chosen by the scanner. I stand to unite, protect, and guide. The galaxy is vast, and many have forgotten what it means to lead with courage, wisdom, and compassion. I am not a queen, not a ruler of bloodlines, but I am the crownless king. Let all who listen know that unity and hope are stronger than fear and division. The word spread across the Dominion, reaching distant colonies, fleets, and councils. Aliens who had doubted her now saw the strength of a human leader. Humanity once forgotten was remembered. Mira did not wear a crown. She did not demand titles or submission. Her power came from her actions, her decisions, and her ability to inspire trust. The galaxy watched as she moved among her allies, resolving disputes, building networks, preparing for the future. In the months that followed, the Dominion transformed. Planets previously at odds now worked together. Fleets coordinated across systems. Trade and knowledge flourished. Mira continued to act with humility, learning from mistakes and guiding those who followed her. She proved that leadership was not about domination, but about vision, courage, and unity. The scanner remained active, its golden light a reminder of humanity's hidden legacy. Mira often visited it, seeking guidance, understanding, and connection. She felt the presence of her ancestors, their wisdom flowing through her. They had waited centuries for someone to awaken the line of lost kings. She carried their spirit forward. The story of Mira, the human from Arden 4, spread across the galaxy. She became a symbol of hope, proof that even the smallest, most overlooked species could rise to greatness. She was remembered not for conquest, but for compassion, wisdom, and courage. Years later, historians would look back at this time as the era of the crownless king. Mira had united the Dominion, restored humanity's legacy, and shown that true leadership came not from titles or bloodlines, but from the strength of heart and mind. She walked across the balcony of the Citadel one evening, watching the stars. Fleets moved across space, planets communicated freely, and the people of the galaxy prospered. Mira felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had faced trials, uncovered her heritage, and guided the galaxy without fear or arrogance. I am human, she whispered, and I will lead with all that I have. The scanner pulsed one last time that evening, a soft glow across the Citadel. Its mission had been fulfilled. It had found a leader worthy not of a crown, but of the spirit it was designed to recognize. Mira was the crownless king. She had united worlds, restored a legacy, and reminded the galaxy of what leadership truly meant. The galaxy had waited long for this moment. Now it had arrived, and humanity, once forgotten, had returned as a beacon of courage, wisdom, and hope.